What's going on, everybody? If you're seeing this page, that means the official Taurean Rain Reloaded merch store is now available. To get access to the store, make sure you go ahead and click the store tab on my YouTube channel. From there, you will be able to see all the merch that is available. We have mugs, shirts, hoodies, joggers, and so much more to come. All original designs made by yours truly, Taurean Rain Reloaded. Now go ahead and get your merch today, and you can feel nothing in style. This story that I'm bringing to you right now is coming out of Ohio. Some of you may or may not have heard about it. If you live in Ohio, I'm almost certain that you have, but if you have not, you probably have no awareness of it until right now. But in this picture, you see a woman by the name of Sydney Powell. She's 23 years of age, and she is about to go to jail for quite some time for the act in what she did. What did you do, you may ask? She murdered her mother, and it says that she did it because of a secret that she had, and well, basically her mother discovered a secret. So when I was looking at just the headline alone, I'm saying to myself, what secret could have been so bad that made you want to take out your own mother? And guess what the secret was? That she had dropped out of school, dropped out of college. And I'm sitting here saying to myself, really? That was the big secret? Not saying that it would have been any other reasoning bigger than that for you to take out your own mother, but you dropping out of school was your reasoning. It was that bad that you thought that thought you can get disowned or something like that. Like, it's the weirdest thing. But I actually have two articles I'm gonna read. I'm gonna read an article that was posted September 25th that goes into more detail about the case, and then I'm gonna read another article that was posted a couple days ago that's gonna talk about her sentencing, because all of the trial and the sentencing have already happened by now. A 23-year-old woman from Ohio killed her mother by beating her with an iron skillet and stabbing her dozens of times because she found the younger woman had been kicked out of college. Sydney Powell of Akron was found guilty of murder, felonious assault, and tampering with evidence, and then the brutal death of healthcare worker Brenda Powell, age 50, according to the Summit County Prosecutor's Office. In March 2020, Powell struck Brenda Powell in the head with an iron skillet, then stabbed her nearly 30 times in the neck. Powell, a former Mount Union University student, sobbed in the Summit County Common Pleas courtroom after a jury found her guilty Wednesday. Police found Brenda inside her Scudder drive home with severe injuries on March 3, 2020. She and her then 19-year-old daughter were taken to a hospital where Brenda died. Prosecutors said Powell attacked her mother, a child life specialist at Akron Children's Hospital, while she was on the phone with officials from her school. During the trial, the defense argued Sydney suffered from schizophrenia, here we go, and therefore could not be held accountable for murder. How did I know they was going to throw that in there? They do it every time. The last couple of cases I've done with crazy situations like this, they've always managed to throw in the quote unquote mental health card or something. But notice now, you know how I've been saying in the past, how they constantly throw out mental health issues so broadly, they're so vague, you don't explain specifically which one it is. But if you've noticed with the last couple of stories I've done talking about situations such as these, they've now limited to schizophrenia. Or somebody with some kind of manic disorder. They always go back. So now it seems like they found their one they want to hang their hat on. James Reardon, one of the 3 defense experts who made the diagnosis, says Sydney suffered a psychotic break when she killed her mom, who she had considered her best friend. And that's another thing. Why is all these people saying the people that they love so much, but they kill them? That's just like the last story I did with the woman who took out her children and claimed she loved them. And they too tried to say she was schizophrenic. Sylvia Obradovich, a psychologist hired by prosecutors, disagreed with the diagnosis and said Sydney didn't meet the legal definition of insanity at the time of the crime. Exactly, because she wasn't schizophrenic when she did it. She, in my opinion, was very sane. Obradovich acknowledged that Sydney suffers from mental health issues, including borderline personality traits, malingering, and an anxiety disorder, the Beacon Journal reported. So yeah, this other woman right here says she didn't suffer from schizophrenia, she suffered from this. And the fact that y'all are saying she suffered from schizophrenia, even though she doesn't have the symptoms of someone who's a schizophrenic, but she has these, that put a hole in your case. Stephen Powell, Sydney's father and Brenda's husband, and maternal grandmother Betsy Brown had urged prosecutors to reach a resolution without a trial, according to the outlet, but the prosecution said it wanted a jury to decide. Sydney stopped attacking with the pan, presumably went to the kitchen, with a knife, Assistant Prosecutor Brian Stano said. She had to switch weapons and keep attacking her, he said, adding that Sydney carried out the deadly attack because she didn't want her secret to be revealed. Just the knife, just in the neck multiple times, that is purposeful. That is trying to end someone, Stano said. Defense attorney Donald Marlasick declined to comment after the verdict. Powell's sentencing is scheduled for September 28th, which of course, like I told you, we're going to go into that article after this, and that's going to talk about her sentencing. She could receive a maximum of life behind bars with possible parole after 15 years and additional time for evidence tampering conviction. So that's that entire first article right there. But you see how they kept trying to they knew to throw that mental health part in there, but it was interesting how the other person came back and said she doesn't suffer from schizophrenia because her symptoms that you claim that she has does not line up, but she does suffer from this. So they took one out and threw another one in. But that other one they threw in, let's hypothetically say that's what she suffered from, put a hole in her lawyer's case. So now I'm gonna read this updated article that was posted on People on September 29th, 2023. So this is a day after the sentencing. It says, Ohio woman who brutally killed mom after being kicked out of college sentenced to life in prison. An Ohio woman who was convicted of brutally killing her own mother inside their home after she found she had been kicked out of college was sentenced to life in prison this week. Summit County Common Pleas Court Judge Kelly McLaughlin ruled Thursday that Sydney Powell, age 23 of Akron, will be eligible for parole after serving 15 years of her life sentence for the murder of 50-year-old Brenda Powell, according to a press release. I wouldn't have given her no eligibility for parole, period. And if it did come down to it, it wouldn't have been after no damn 15 years. It would have been at least 50 if it was up to me. On September 20th, Sydney was found guilty of 2 counts of murder as well as felony counts of assault and tampering with evidence. In March of 2020, Powell struck Brenda in the head with an iron skillet, then stabbed her nearly 30 times in the neck. According to Fox News and NBC News, prosecutors said Sydney killed her mother inside their home because she learned she had been kicked out of college and didn't want her mother to find out. Sydney, who had been 19 at the time, had reportedly been kicked out of the University of Mount Union in Alliance, Ohio for poor grades and kept it a secret. So I wonder what she was doing or not doing up there to have poor grades. Because if we're looking at her age correctly, it looks to me like she was in her freshman year. On March 3rd, 2020, Sydney brutally attacked Brenda while she was on the phone with school officials, who then called local police when they heard screaming on the other end of the line. According to prosecutors, the outlet reports, she reportedly tried to stage the scene as a break-in. After the violence, Brenda, who was a child life specialist at Akron's Children's Hospital for almost 30 years, died at the hospital from her injuries. Sydney was diagnosed with schizophrenia by 3 defense experts who evaluated her, according to the Akron Beacon Journal. So they still tried to diagnose her, even though it comes back and says they concluded that she did not comprehend the wrongness of her actions due to the mental disorder. However, a clinical psychologist who testified on behalf of the prosecutors during the trial contradicted the defense's claims that Sydney suffered from the illness. The best source of information for an insanity evaluation is what was said and felt at the time of the incident, Dr. Sylvia Obradovich, who said per Court TV. It just didn't add up to schizophrenia. Assistant Prosecutor Brian Stano added in court that Sydney's actions were purposeful, noting how after she attacked her mother with the iron skillet, she grabbed a steak knife from the kitchen and continued the deed. That's crazy. So there you go. So not only are we getting the sentencing part right here, but we're getting more additional information. So after this woman stabbed her mother in the neck multiple times, and I think they said, I forgot how many times they said, but they said multiple times, after she hit her over the head with the skillet, which probably she could have been dead just from that, depending on how hard it is. I mean, you think about how heavy and hard a cast iron skillet is and how thick it is as well. And then when proceeded to stab her multiple times. Yeah, that was not, if she had just hit her over the head with the skillet, then they probably would have looked at it differently. But the fact she went in with the knife afterwards and did it multiple times, nope. And I always say that's like such disrespect to people who actually suffer from schizophrenia, because it's like they love to point that out there. I'm like, do y'all not read up on what a lot of these mental illnesses can cause people to do before you start labeling your clients these things? I highly doubt them going and doing what she did is part of the symptom. Sydney's attorney, Donald Marlisick, disagreed with the severity of his client's sentence, noting in court Thursday that Sydney's family, who testified on her behalf, asked for leniency, Fox News reports. The wishes of the victim are trampled upon yet again. I find it appalling, he said, per Fox News. Well, it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, what does the evidence show? It shows that this woman killed her mother because she was afraid that she was going to find out that about her bad grades and that she had to pretty much drop out. And that was it. That was her big secret. That's the part that got me the most out of this whole thing, besides the fact of the act in which she committed. Malarsic also read a letter from an Akron Children's Hospital doctor in court, which explained how if Sydney's mother was still alive, she would without a doubt want the unwavering support of Sydney's continued treatment for her mental condition in the least restrictive environment possible, with as much family connection and contact as possible, according to local station. That is a bunch of BS. And in my opinion, very disrespectful on the memory of her mother. How would you know what her mother would have wanted? I'm sure her mother would not have wanted to be murdered by her own daughter. Let's talk about that. To the victim, to the family, and the friends, I am terribly sorry for your loss here, Judge McLaughlin said at the sentencing hearing per NBC News. I cannot imagine what you've all been through. According to NBC News and Fox News, Sydney, who was in tears, only spoke once during the sentencing hearing, softly replying yes when the judge asked if she would need the court to appoint an attorney to represent her in an appeal. To the victim and to the family and the friends, I am terribly sorry for your loss here, Judge McLaughlin said in court per NBC News. I cannot imagine what you have been through. And that is the entire article right there. In my opinion, that was the rightful sentence to give this woman, minus the part I would have definitely gave her more than 15 years, possible parole after 15 years. In my opinion, she would have got that parole would have came much later, or at best, in a perfect world, she would not be eligible for parole. She would literally walk into that prison and she will never see outside world again, except to go outside for free time or whatever they call it. But yeah, they're gonna sit up there and pull that mental illness card again. It's almost to the point where when I read or come across these type of stories, I almost expect it. That's why whenever I read it, I say, here they go. And I say it in a tone that's like not so surprising, because I pretty much expect it at this point. It's just making a mockery of people who actually suffer from various mental illnesses. And in this case, it's making a mockery of people who suffer from schizophrenia. Like I said, I don't believe they look up the symptoms that people go through when they are diagnosed with this. Are there people who have schizophrenia that can most likely turn out to be violent? Yes. But how many times have we actually seen situations such as these from a person who's actually schizophrenic? And like they said, they came back and said she doesn't exhibit the symptoms of a person who's a schizo. It's something else. Yeah, it's called her being a damn psycho ass killer. Let's call it what it is. This woman murdered her mother because she was afraid she was going to find out that she was having bad grades and had to drop out. That was such a big deal for her that she was scared her mother was going to find out. I'm like, what was the worst that was going to happen? I'm sure they probably would have found a way to support you or found other means. Probably told you to get gainful employment. I don't know. So there it is. She made it seem like her mother was an abuser. And nowhere in this article that I read of the previous one, and I'm sure in any of those court documents, was it anything saying about her mother being an abuser, because they would have definitely mentioned that. Sounds to me like her mother was a good mother that was very supportive of her daughter and could have been very understanding of what would have happened if she just came and told her that and said, Mom or Mother, I'm not doing well in school. I don't think college is for me and I might have to drop out. Is there any other alternative I can do to make money and support myself going forward? There it is. But nope, she wanted to go the murderous route and do what she did. And now look at her. Look at where she's at. I feel absolutely nothing for her. As far as I'm concerned, she got exactly what she deserved, and she should have got way more, if you ask me. And you want to know the even more egregious thing about this whole situation? This woman's secret that she was trying to keep from her mother was worth more to her alive than her own mother being alive. Like, really think about that. She was willing to keep a whole secret alive at the expense and cost of her own mother's life. She felt that that secret that she was holding of her having bad grades and having to drop out of school was worth more to her than her own mother's well-being and being here alive and in good health. Like, you have to really let that sink in. When you let that really marinate and sink in, then you really don't feel bad for her. Not that I felt bad from her from the jump, but when that plays out in my head and that just sinks in after reading everything and giving my take, this is the conclusion that I brought to it. Her secret was definitely something that she loved more than her own mother, and the act in which she committed definitely, without the shadow of a doubt, proves just that.